Hello everybody, my name is Jeremy, this is Red Means Recording, and today we are looking at the Osiris bi-fidelity wavetable oscillator from Modbap. This thing is wild. And this video is going to be broken up into a few parts. The first part is we're going to just walk through the features here and throw some modulation at this so you can get a sense of what it sounds like and how it do. Then I'll play you some performance snippets, and then we're going to talk about Osiриsedit, which is the version of Wavededit that Modbap has created to let you put your own wavetables on this. And all three performances that I'm going to be playing you snippets of will be available on my second channel, extended, uncut, and all that, if you want to check that out. So without further ado, what is the Osiris bi-fidelity wavetable oscillator? In order to talk about that, we're going to need to get some stuff going. So let's go ahead and get a little drum beat and a little bit of Osiris going. So what you're hearing right now is the wavetable out of Osiris. There are actually two outputs, the wavetable output and the sub output. The sub output is running into the hex VCA and is getting an envelope from here. It's actually getting its own set of triggers from Renee. We'll get into that in a second. I don't think we're listening to that right now at all. No, we're not. Okay, great. So we are hearing the wavetable. So let's start at the top. The first thing we have is the X control. That moves through the current wavetable, which is a sort of selection of 32 possible wave shapes. So already getting some great timbre shifts, and that's what wavetables are good for. They can contain just a crazy lookup table of possible waves. The Y control selects from 32 separate wavetables per one of 4 banks. Modbap says in their manual kind of cheekily that you probably don't need to even put your own wavetables on here, or you may not, because the ones that come with it are good, and they're not lying. This first bank of wavetables I have been using just a ton. It's great. We can shift between banks like this. And you can hear that each control moves smoothly through things, though I have found that if you send stepped modulation to this, or very light modulation to this, you'll get a better result than going absolutely ham on it. Actually, that's true for all of this, and we'll get into that in a little bit. We have fine and coarse pitch control, of course, like a normal oscillator would. And then we have these timbre control things down here. These are really interesting. So there is this timbre amount control. And you can hear that we get a new sort of like timbre from that, because what it's doing is applying one of these timbre modes over here. So we've got this thing that detunes, and then we go into things like wave folding. Into FM. Complex wavetable modulation is one of my favorite things, and you know, I'm already pretty familiar with doing it with things like the Piston Hondo, where you have a lot of wavetables you can move through. But the addition of the timbre thing in this, the timbre control and the timbre type, it's just wild. Like, you get so many crazy spots. And that's why I have paired it with the Acid Rain Maestro and a bunch of the Acid Rain navigators in order to, you know, give me some really fine control over the kind of modulation that I'm sending to it. And we'll get into that in just a second. I want to walk through the rest of what's going on here. This thing has a built-in VCA. Currently, we have the decay all the way up, but I can turn this down. So very convenient. I don't have the main oscillator running through its own VCA and envelope combo, which is really nice. The sub, you can actually bring the sub into the main signal here, which I just have, and it will follow the pitch of the thing. And now we can change the subtype. So square, the way to triangle, and then we can have a 1 octave or 2 octave below version of the wavetable. So when you have something very glassy and high harmonic content focused like this, it can be really, really helpful to have a nice pure sub underneath there like you can hear. And this is how a lot of these complex wavetable sounds are created in the songs that you hear them in. There's a pure sine or triangle or square sub going on underneath to give the thing that undercarriage while you move through the otherwise complex timbre changes. But that sub can also go out on its own, and that's what I'm currently doing. There's a sub output. So that's going into the hex VCA, and it's getting an envelope from the ADSR here, the Quadagy. And I'm actually able to set it its own set of triggers at that point, and get its own sort of rhythm going on. So that's cool, right? It's still following the pitch of the wavetable oscillator, but it actually doesn't have to. It has a 1 volt per octave in on its own, so you can actually, it's like 2 oscillators in one. The sub oscillator can be addressed as a separate pitch sequence, and also you can send it out and give it a separate gate sequence. So a lot of power there, but you know, the sub probably is going to do best when it is being thrown at the same pitches that the wavetable are to give you that that support underneath the wavetable. There's one more thing too, and that's the fidelity. I mean, it is in the namesake. It's the bi-fidelity wavetable oscillator, right? So let's listen to that. You can see on the O tool what it's doing to an otherwise smooth wave. It's basically quantizing it. And you know, because all of these things have, you know, their own modulation, and if you throw enough modulation at this thing, you don't need much else in a mix. Like, it's just so dynamic, and yeah, hopefully you'll start to understand that once we send it some modulation. So now that we've looked at the panel and we have talked about what's going on, I'm going to reposition the camera so that I can show you how I'm doing modulation and shit like that, and we're going to start getting a little wild. All right? Just a quick note before I move forward, because I forgot to mention it. I am running the wavetable output of Osiris into the Minsk stereo processor from xaoc. And that's because one of the things I always do in my use of wavetables is I make the wavetable itself, the higher end stuff, stereo as hell, and then the bass stays mono. And that's what the Minsk is doing. It's creating a stereo image from the mono out. So if you're confused as to why the wavetable is sort of big and stereo left-right, that's why. I'm running it from Minsk into xaoc. The xaoc is not doing any filtering. It's just there, again, to provide a little bit of color, like analog color, and also a more stereo width. So that's why this wavetable is so big and wide. Okie dokie, artichoke. Anyone who has spent time working with wavetables in the context of software, or maybe even other hardware wavetables, know that the true magic of wavetables lies in modulation. This here is the Acid Rain Maestro, and oh my god, it's filthy. Went up to my makeup, my makeup, my makeup. So I have talked about the Maestro a bunch. It is a clocked modulation device. We do need to send it a clock, so let's go ahead and do that real quick. I have my clock over here on 7 of... Oh, look at it. It's already going. Let's go ahead and calm that down. I'm going to set all of these to a upward ramp at 1/2 for right now. So this is going to send modulation out to the Osiris. I believe each one of these channels is set to a different control in Osiris, and I will explain as we go. The first one is set to go to X. So you can hear we're already getting some cool sounds there. This second fader is set to the Y control, and like you can hear, like I said earlier, too much modulation on this gets too crazy because you're going through the entire set of wavetables. But what I have found is this one really likes random. Now let's introduce that X modulation again. So as the Y randomly steps through a wavetable, X moves through that wavetable's set of waves, and you can just get really, really amazing complex modulation. That's really, really fun. And also a little hard to tackle. Like, it's hard to nail it down properly. So that's why a lot of control over here is good. All right, next up is the timbre amount control right here. So that is highly dependent on what timbre type, what timbre mod type you're using. And that's where this control comes in. Now, it's going to turn this up a little bit. Go ahead and change this back. All right, let's start turning up the timbre mode. A lot of fun to be had there. Let's try setting the timbre mode to random. So that is just a little taste of what we can do every single time we decide to modulate the Osiris. There is another way to do this, though. This friend can receive gates for all of these here. And what that means is instead of running continuously, it will run its modulation when it receives a gate. It's going to be like a lot of complex envelopes happening at once. So let's go ahead and make these all, for right now, up and quarter note. And I want to make 3 still random. And yeah, okay. So let's hit play again. And I need to send this. I believe it's on 13. All right, there we go. So we're going to head and ignore these 2. All right, let's see what happens when this thing gets a series of gates as opposed to just constant modulation. Pretty wild, right? And guess what? We've all just been in the same wavetable this whole time, or the same bank. Like, I haven't even played any of my custom wavetables for you, because again, this first bank is just so good. So this is one of my custom wavetables. I love it. This is one of the most expressive and just insane wavetable oscillators I've ever played with. Absolutely mercurial. It's crazy. So, next time we speak, I'll be showing you Osirissedit, which is the software that lets you make your own wavetables. So here's a performance snippet or 2, and I'll be back in just a second. See you in just a second. All right, so welcome to Osirissedit. This is a customized version of the open source wave edit software, and it's got some cool features. So you can see on the left here, we have 32 slots. These are our waves in the wavetable. Each one can be adjusted manually via drawing. You can draw in the harmonics. You can go in here and play with the effects. And then if you hit play, you can manually morph through them, or you can have it automatically do it. So we can import wavetables from Serum stuff and things like that. I will show you that in the second half of this little chunk. But right now I want to show you how to make your own wavetable, because honestly, that is the best result that I've gotten. So I just hit new for a new wavetable, and I'm going to go to slot 1 here. I'm going to go to digital instead of analog, FM, or glitch. These are all pre-built shapes, and I'm going to choose sine. Now, if I copy this, I can start pasting it to other slots, copying it down into all the other slots. I don't know if there's a way to propagate all the slots automatically, but what I want to do right now is just get sine waves in there. So if I hit play, we're just going to hear a bunch of sine waves. I like to adjust the frequency down a little bit here just so I can hear what it sounds like a bit lower, because I find that wavetables sound good a bit lower. This does not affect the output as far as I know. It's just a way to listen to it. One of the things that makes Osirissedit special is the effect editor. You can see that we have 0 to 31 or 32 slots from left to right for all these different effects. These are the same effects we have in the waveform editor right here. And what this allows us to do is draw these effects over the course of our wavetable to create complex interactions in a much more streamlined way. We have a couple tools we can use for this: pencil, brush, grab, and line. I find line to be pretty good. So for instance, I'm going to come down here to the ring mod and start drawing in some ring modulation and maybe some wave folding and maybe some quantization and end with some sample and hold. Now that I've done that, if we go over to the waveform editor, you'll see that our waves are all shaped because we made those changes over time. So there's our original sine right there. You can see it slowly changes over time. You can also look at it in this view. You can see each individual wave and listen to it, or the waterfall view, which is honestly pretty cool. At this point, you could save the wavetable by going to File, Save Wavetable, and you could start building up your collection of wavetables that you want to put on Osiris. You can have 4 banks of 32 wavetables, and each one is going to have 32 waves in it. So this is one of 32 for bank A, and there's banks A, B, C, and D. Another thing you can do in here is you can hit bake. And now all the things that we just did to this are baked into it, and you can see all the effects reset. And now I can add more effects if I want to. So for instance, I could do a harmonic shift and a comb filter, and I could even do more ring modulation and other things if I wanted to as well. So let's just go ahead and listen to that. Another cool thing to do in here is to take this low pass filter and go like this. And if we listen to this now, what we'll hear is a sort of filter sweep downward. And that means that if you modulated this wave over time in a particular way, it would sound like you were running it through a filter. This works really well also with like sawtooths. So for instance, that sounds a lot like running a sawtooth wave through a filter. So there's a lot of cool tricks you can do in here to create really useful wavetables for your system. If we import a wavetable from a collection that was meant for like Serum or something like that, I want to show you just a couple things that I ran into that you might want to keep in mind, because my first impetus was to just grab a bunch of wavetables from these collections of wavetables that I have and convert them to the banks, and ran into some dumb stuff, and I'll show you what I mean. So let's go and pull one of the most famous wavetables that exists, Modern Talking from Massive. And if I hit play, slow this down, you're going to hear this weird sort of buzziness on top. That is not inherent to the original wave. That's not how it sounds. And that will sound like ass if you just put that straight into the Osiris. So down here on these controls, cycle all, cycle on, normalize all, normalize none, I'm going to hit cycle all. And you can hear that a lot of that buzzy alias goes away. I found this to be somewhat necessary for pretty much every single wave that I tried to import from Serum or Pigments or something like that. Another thing you can do is hit randomize and just get insane stuff immediately. And then come through and adjust this however you want. If I hit bake now and normalize all of those quiet ones are going to get normalized. So don't sleep on the normalize all function. And again, cycle all. So baking, normalizing, cycling will give you all kinds of cool results. So let's say that you have created 128 wavetables that you want to put into the Osiris. If you go to File, Convert, we're able to use this convert function. And do not change these wave configuration things. I talked to Modbap about it. These are the settings you're going to want to use. And they set the default settings. So don't play around with these unless you really know what you're doing. I'm going to go into the bank that I made, and I want you to take a look at how I named these. So I used a batch file renamer to give these an A, B, C, and D to start their name, followed by a number. And that was as much so I could keep track of how many I had created, but also so that I could make sure that I had them go into the banks in the order that I wanted them to. When we convert these, they're going to go into a folder called Osiris, and within that folder, there's going to be 4 banks, A, B, C, and D, with 32 wavetables in each one. So this helps the convert function just kind of keep itself together and make sure that the wavetables that you created go in the order that you wanted, because that can be really, really important. So if I hit open and then pick a destination for this, swamp, and then I'm going to click this separate into wave pack, banks A and D, and I'm going to hit convert. If the convert function does not like your wavetable, it just will not convert it. That's just how it be. So in this demo folder, we can see it's created a folder called Osiris inside A, B, C, and D, and inside each one of those is 32 wavetables in the order that I named them. So this Osiris folder is what you're going to put on the SD card for the device. Just drag this right onto a FAT32 formatted SD card, and you're good to go. There is one more step, though. It expects these to have a 1 through 32 numbering at the end of the file name. And this is where I introduce you to one of the most powerful tools as a producer you could possibly have, and that is called the batch rename utility. There are a lot of different ones out there. I use bulk rename utility on Windows, but since OsirisedIt is only currently available for Mac and Linux, I'm using this rename X in here. But pick whichever one you want, as long as it has a serialized function or a numbering function. If I turn this off, you can see that those numbers disappear at the end. Turn it on. There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, all the way through 32 at the end. I hit rename files, select the folder. It will rename them all with that serialization, and now Osiris will know what to do with them. Do that for each one of your banks, and you are then good to go, dragging these into the Osiris root folder of your SD card. And then you have a whole bunch of custom wavetables. So that's OsirisedIt. Really cool, really powerful, pretty easy to use, and it's a great fun thing to just sit on a rainy day and make yourself some wavetables and have a bunch of custom wavetables that you can play with. And with that said, here is another performance. right, well, that concludes my video on the Modbap Osiris. I hope you enjoyed it. This was a lot of fun to put together. This oscillator is truly special. And I'm not just saying that because Modbap sent it over. But thank you, Modbap, for letting me get a chance to demo this for everybody. I hope you can see why this is a cool thing to put into your rack. I truly believe that having this much diversity in an oscillator in your rack is a really powerful thing, and I'm probably going to end up putting this into one of my live racks. But it's a tough choice because like it's between this and the Piston Honda Mark III. But honestly, with the sub-oscillator out on this and the timbre mod and timbre mod choices, this becomes a lot more powerful in terms of sound diversity than even the Piston Honda, which pains me to say because the Piston Honda is one of my favorite oscillators in the entire world. So, good old job, Modbap. You guys did a great job here. I've been putting a lot of banging sounds into your ears, so I'm going to finish this up with a more chill, sort of ambient sound thing just to show off that it can. Do check the links in the description for this oscillator, the rest of the modules that were used in this, and a link to the longer performances if you want to hear them. Thank you for watching. Thank you to those that support the channel. And with that said, my name is Jeremy. This is Red Means Recording, and I hope you have a wonderful day.